entertainmentbuddha.com.
Okay, here we go. Pete, let's do it. Hey now, everyone! Welcome back to a brand new episode of Star Wars Time. That's right, it's Matt, it's Nick, it's Pete, it's Darth, it's Ben, it's a Buckeye guy. What am I talking about? Who the fuck knows? I'm talking about all the little toys I have on my desk, actually, but I got sidetracked because I'm kind of like that. I got ADD. You don't know. But what you do know is that you're listening to one of the best Star Wars Time news, randomness, editorial, fanboyistic podcast on the internet. So this week, again, I mean, news has literally dried up on all fronts at this point in time. We lacked Mando news, we lacked the Clone Wars reboot news, and of course, Episode 9 has been MIA for weeks at this point. But you can always rely on Nick and I for cooking up something to talk about in or from that galaxy that we love, that we all know is far, far away, right? So, Nick, we do have some legit stuff to talk about, and it comes in the form of, we got, again, the 5th episode of Star Wars Resistance, which is technically, I still consider the 4th, but whatever, we're not going to get crazy mixed up in semantics. Either way, we finally got some new content from Resistance, so we're going to talk about that. We had the Lego All-Stars shorts kick off this week, which we talked about in the last cast. And because we want to entertain you people, Nick and I, again, took time out of our busy weeks. And we sat down and we cooked up a fanboyistic topic. And that is our most wanted fanboy moments in the Clone Wars reboot series. So
this is the Star Wars Time animated podcast.
Yeah, pretty much. You're exactly right. I mean,
animated.
we're full on tune at this point.
Yeah. We're gonna take advantage of the downtime. We're gonna talk about some of the lesser appreciated Star Wars properties out there. I know people play the video games, people watch the live action movies. People who haven't seen the animated series are doing themselves a disservice. We've gone over this before. So we're going to give you a whole cast dedicated to what's new in animation, what's coming in animation, and we're probably going to talk about what has happened in previous animations. So just think about it like that. If you haven't delved into the Star Wars animated series, whether it be Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance, Freemaker Adventures, or this All-Star series, Forces of Destiny, if you haven't looked at any of those yet, we'll kind of give you a little starter course on some of those properties here. You can learn a little bit about, who the characters are, what the storylines are, and stuff like that. So we'll give you the material that you need to get started.
Of course. I mean, we are your Cliff Notes to the Star Wars franchise, if anything else. We're your dipshit notes sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we may not be right about everything, but, it sounds good.
Yeah, we're right in our own minds. And obviously,
that's what's important.
Yeah, these days, that's honestly, that's all that matters in society. As long as you believe it's right, it's right.
Yep. There is no notion of what's actually right anymore.
All right, man. So, let's get down to one of the new animated series that dropped this week, and that's Lego Star Wars All-Stars. So last week we talked about on the cast, we were kind of speculating on what it could be about. And Nick was definitely more on the side of like, oh, it's probably just going to be rehashy stuff. And I'm like, yeah, you're probably right, but it's going to have that fun Lego spin humor to it. But honestly, after watching the first 5, which you can see on entertainmentbuddha.com, there's going to be a few on the homepage. If anything else, just drop down the search bar and search Lego Star Wars All-Stars. You'll get it. But, I mean, dude, it's, as it turns out, these series of shorts, which there's going to be 8 in total, so we're still missing 3. It's literally Roger the Battle Droid's backstory, if you will.
Yeah, so we were wrong about this. Me in particular, I said there was probably gonna be a rehash, like you said, but this is following around a battle droid from the prequel era. His name's Roger.
Well,
and,
I mean, if you're not,
you
those
know,
of you not fully familiar, and I don't even know, Nick, if you watch it, but Roger was established in the Lego Star Wars Freemaker Adventure series, which, quite frankly, was pretty good. It was set during the original trilogy because they interacted with young Luke, Leia, Rebel Leia, whatever you want to call it. But that's where Roger comes from.
Yeah, so I haven't seen the Freemaker Adventures yet. I've also not delved into the Lego animated series stuff. But what I find interesting about this is that it's content. It's good. It's bite-sized content. It's perfect for kids, but it's also trying to tell its own story. Like, I was kind of down on it because I thought it was just going to be rehashes, kind of comedic retellings of events that we've already seen, but it's kind of positioning it in a different way. It's telling a new story about a new character that, that kids will find funny. And, having seen a couple of episodes of All Stars, I haven't watched all 5, but that's kind of what it feels like. It's definitely content for children. Hardcore Star Wars fans, it's only 2 minutes long, so if you just want to get in some YouTube time, you can watch it there. Do I find this something that I'm like dying to see the other 3 episodes for? No, not really, but this just goes to show you that Disney's putting out content in all shapes and sizes for Star Wars now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a bummer for me because I've actually really enjoyed some of the Lego Star Wars content that has come out prior to this, including the Freemaker Adventures. They really set a high bar, some of these, and I believe they're called like the Droid Tales or C-3PO Tales or whatever, but I'm telling you, Nick, they provide some of the best comedic Star Wars lampoon content I've ever seen, and I guess even based on what we were talking about last week, I was kind of looking for that in this Lego Star Wars All-Stars, keyword being All-Stars, series of shorts, and it just, as much as I like Roger, he is a great character. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I did enjoy him in Freemaker. He's a battle droid that's been reprogrammed over the decades to, now where he's working with a family of scavengers that go out looking for space parts, and they sell them, fix ships, so on and so forth. The younger one has a force affinity. It actually is a good show. So I do like the character of Roger, but I guess I was just kind of caught off guard that he was made the main focus of these series of shorts. I mean, they're the main framing behind them, as it was revealed on Monday. It's called From Trenches to Wrenches, which is Roger's autobiography. So in each episode, what's going down is he's talking to some Star Wars All-Stars. We've seen Han and Chewie, we've seen Hera, we've seen Akbar. Damn it, what was the last one he just
Cassian
did? Yeah,
and K2.
Cassian and K2. Chopper. But the main stories are framed as little vignettes from Roger's autobiography. So he's essentially telling people in the present or future Star Wars universe of the past events, and then the little shorts follow those past events. And they're it's like, all right. I mean, the first one, it was established that yes, Roger was at the Battle of Naboo, so that's kind of cool. He was at Geonosis. That's kind of cool. But outside of that, all the other episodes are just like one-off little non-important shorts.
Yeah, I think that, as hardcore fans like we are, we always want to get some sort of new lore, new content, something to add to the story from every piece of Star Wars that comes out. And I mean, yeah, you're right. This just isn't it. But this is like we were saying earlier. Like this is something perfect for children. Like if you have
100%.
Like you're on a 10-minute car drive to the TV store, to the fucking movie store, and you're gonna go pick up something. You can just give this to them on the iPad. They can watch it on the drive. It's funny. They'll laugh. They can pick out Star Wars characters that they recognize, because like Matt was saying, we've already had Han and Chewie, we've had Hera, we have Cassian and K2. I mean, you have all of these all-stars, that's the name of the show. You have all of these famous Star Wars characters that are brought to life in Lego form and that Roger's interacting with, but it's just for people like us,
they're silly. I mean, they're silly little cartoons.
Yeah. So they're out there. They're on the Disney XD YouTube channel. And like we said last podcast, they're also going to, once they fully release, once all 8 of them are out, I think they're going to show them as like an episodic
No. I believe, I don't know. I think it's tomorrow.
Okay, so they're going to 5 first.
They're going to do a special extended edition of all 5. Like they're going to run all 5 back to back to back to back, and then they're going to show the 3 new ones.
Yeah, so
that's how they're going to do it. I don't know if it's tomorrow, whatever. I mean, again, if you're listening to this, the dates don't matter to you. We're already time traveling like Doc Emmett style.
Yeah.
At this point, so it really doesn't matter. The point is,
DeLorean.
There's going to be 8 total shorts, but there's also going to be 4 30-minuters coming up. So, yeah. I mean, are those going to be more from trenches to wrenches, or are we going to get into more honest, legit, not Roger-centric episodes?
Dude, I don't know if you can pull off a 30-minute Roger episode.
I mean, Freemaker Adventures, they could, but he was also interacting with other characters.
Yeah, I mean, with him as the primary focal point of these, I don't know if you can do the same thing that you're doing in these 2-minute, 3-minute episodes in a 30-minute episode.
Yeah, I hope they have fun with these like they did with the old Droid Tale stuff. Because, dude, I'm telling you, they're worth buying. Like through iTunes, Amazon, wherever they're still available. They're a few years old now at this point, but they're fantastic.
Yeah.
There's and I mean, I can share these with people if you have interest. I'll share them with Nick. There's a list of them, but they're really, really, really good Lego Star Wars animated 30-minuters. And I hope that's what we get to kind of tail this thing off.
Yeah, it looks like, being that they've already made that kind of content in the same format, it's probably going to be something similar to that. Roger will play a primary role, but I assume that he's going to have to go on. There has to be some sort of story arc with these. Of course, in 2 minutes, there's no story. It's just interacting with those all-star characters that we talked about for a couple of minutes. The first episode kind of gives a backstory of him showing, like Matt said, showing him dying on Naboo or getting, blown up and then reassembled, and then showing same thing happening on Geonosis, trying to tell his autobiography to Chewie and Han on the Falcon, young Chewie and Han on the Falcon. You would need a substantial story arc to play out in a 4-episode fashion. So hopefully it's not just like, piecing these together into an episodic form, because that would probably be pretty annoying. Like you said.
Again, I'm not shitting on this series. It kind of let me down a bit, but I'm also a 38-year-old man.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real. These are 2 to 3 minute long little shorts that are definitely directed towards younger kids.
Oh yeah. This
and it's exactly. Star Wars. It's fucking Star Wars in the end. So wah for me. I got over it.
Yeah, this is not content that is created for our age group. This is not meant for 30 and up or even 20 and up. This is meant for children, and for bite-sized content.
Yeah, it's for Star Wars fans, but the older you are, don't get that excited. It's gonna be like watching a little kid cartoon.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I mean, I've seen enough Tinkerbells at this point that I just accept it.
Yeah, I think you're burned out on kids' cartoons.
Yeah, I mean, like, man,
way
I used
too
to
much
watch
now.
this shit. I was a moron, but it is what it is. They're great little stories for little brains.
Yeah, yeah. Kids can't understand full story
No,
arcs
they don't
yet. They
give a
can't
shit.
put together character relationships.
I mean, my
It's not part of
motherfucker
it.
literally can watch Frozen and 5 minutes later say, "Let's watch Frozen."
Yeah, that's like goldfish level memory.
And being
brain
being
response.
100% dead set on watching it again, like not just like, hey, fuck it, there's nothing else on. Hey, Dad, the Steelers aren't playing. Let's just fucking watch Frozen. No, it's literally, I want to fucking watch this shit again because I really like it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
motherfucker, we just watched it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She's like, I don't care. I literally watched Frozen for 4 hours in a fucking row. Bro.
Yeah, well now you gotta get her. Have you showed her the Star Wars Clone Wars animated movie yet? That might be something.
I've started talking to her like, do you want to watch Daddy's Star Wars? That's how I'm kind of framing it now.
Yeah.
And sometimes she's like, fuck you. But
now, Daddy Star Wars, as in live action.
Yeah, I've even did, and I'm not gonna. I'll be the first one to admit I cried during these moments, but it's just gonna sound weird to some of you. But it was like a weekend ago. I'm sitting down in the man cave, right? EBHQ. I just got my 1/6 scale Hot Toys Darth Vader Empire. He's fucking beautiful, beautiful. And being the weirdo I am, when I was taking him out of the box, I had to play the Imperial March on loop. The entire time. The entire time, literally. And even when I got him out of the box, I was setting him up. I was even like moving his arms and still playing the music. And so my kid comes down because she misses me, and it goes back to like how Star Wars to me, I attach it to my own father. Even though, we're kind of weird in terms of our relationship now, but I can't help it. When I think of Star Wars, I think of my past and how it was a bond between me and my old man. And so, like, when she comes down, as I'm sitting there having my own moment as a 38-year-old playing with a Darth Vader Barbie. Literally, I'm already almost crying. Playing with a Barbie and listening to the Imperial March. But when she comes down and then she just wants to sit on my lap and listen to it with me, it about wrecked me. I mean, it almost wrecked me. To the point where I even opened up iTunes and I started playing like the original, so like some of my favorite scenes from the original trilogy movies I have loaded up in digital. I just throw them on so she could hear the music and actually. Basically, I was trying to show her scenes of the Imperial March playing with Vader.
Exactly, like associate the character or the scene.
And the look on her face, dude, was just like, oh. I mean, I could just it was like me, as she was just like, holy shit. And it was amazing.
Yeah, man. I mean,
again, even for like a girl and one that I'm not sitting there going, you gotta like it, you gotta like it, you gotta like it, you gotta like it. Yes, I'm definitely, as soon as she mentions it, I'm like, blah, 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 hitting her from all angles. I mean, don't get me wrong. But the point has always been, I've never said, you're gonna like Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's just, it's been around, it's been in her periphery. But she has chosen that, based on what I've seen in my environment, I think this shit's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it came relatively organically. Like you said, you didn't force a lightsaber into her hands or anything like that. Like, she sees it around. She knows that it's something that you enjoy. She's gotten it from, reading the books with her mom.
It's more mom than anything. It has to be. And it's like the one little Easter egg conversation we had. Like, the whole thing, the lightsabers, and the one time she literally, as holding it, said, "Daddy, I'm a Jedi." I have never in my life ever said anything like that to her. Never. I've never even explained what a fucking Jedi was.
She's got the Force.
And she fucking somehow figured it out.
She's got the Force,
I mean,
man.
my wife knows enough about Star Wars, but she's not learned in it, as we like to say. So it's not like she's sitting there fucking explaining it. She's just fucking going through ABC's Star Wars. Or like Happy Slapdick Pop-Up Book Star Wars. Or like Where's Waldo Star Wars. And somehow my fucking kid figured out if you hold a lightsaber, you're probably a fucking Jedi.
That's right.
Get the fuck out of here.
It's just osmosis. It sinks in.
Yeah, so anyways, are we really still talking about Lego Star Wars All-Stars?
Yeah, we went way too long on the Lego Star Wars stuff, but let's move on to some actual, some different animated content, an actual show that's on actual TV, and we're talking about Star Wars Resistance, Episode 5, Episode 4, whichever one you want to call it. The episode called The High
I think
Tower.
At this point, just based on majority, we're going with Episode 5, The High Tower.
The High Tower. So this is the first episode after the initial Disney
vomit of episodes.
Yeah, like they dropped a content bomb on us about 3 weeks ago that had the first episode, which was 45 minutes long, and then you had the two subsequent ones after that were 22 minutes long each. This is the follow up to those, and this kind of puts Kaz in a situation where he really is now confronted with the First Order for the first time in a real way on the Colossus. So, the episode kind of opens up with Hype Phazon. You finally get to meet Hype. Hype comes into...
Yeah, first time he's prominently featured.
Yeah, so, we get to meet him, and you also find out through meeting Hype that him and Tam Rivora, the mechanic on Team Fireball, had a relationship. Well, not really a relationship, but they were friends in the past, and that there was a pretty big falling out between them after Hype became an ace and Tam didn't. So that's something that we learned in this episode, is that Tam was actually trying to become one of the ace pilots on the Colossus and unfortunately didn't make the squad. But, after all that happens, we learned that there is a possible link between Admiral Doza, General Doza, and the First Order. There are First Order troopers that are coming to the Colossus station, and they're coming here to talk to General or Commander Doza. So that's kind of what sets up this whole First Order storyline that's going to go on in this episode. So, Matt, what were like some of the things that you liked? I know we have an Easter egg post to go over too, but what were some of the things that you really liked about this episode?
First and foremost, I think the last time we talked about this, after we got the first 4 episodes dumped on us, one of our biggest complaints was outside the pilot and maybe the third episode at the very end, they kind of went away from the whole Kaz being a spy for the Resistance looking for a First Order mole plot. And this episode essentially returned right to it and stuck with it for the entire runtime. So I thought it was a strong episode. It had a good amount of Easter eggs, which we're going to talk about, but in terms of just the narrative it told, I liked it. I mean, it solely focused on Kaz trying to dig deeper into his charge of finding a mole on the Colossus that is working for the First Order.
Yeah, and not only do you get that, but you also get to see the inner workings of not only the First Order, but the New Republic kind of through this episode as well.
Well, I mean, even the Colossus itself, because for the first time, we got to go to the tower, which is essentially considered a place of privilege on the Colossus.
Yeah, it's a lockdown.
It's very
Cloud
City-ish, right? It was kind of Bespin-ish.
Yeah,
the tower, it was, it's obviously elevated. It had that glow to it.
Yeah, and it also had that signature shape that you saw on Cloud City too, that kind of like disc-like shape to it. But so it did kind of have that feel. And what I thought was really interesting was in the conversation that was had between Admiral Von Reg, or is it Admiral or is it Major? Major. God, I keep getting all these military ranks
it's Captain Doza and Major Von Reg.
Captain Doza
but
and
somehow
Major Von Reg between
Captain
those two.
Phasma is higher than Major Von Reg in the First Order.
Yeah, so I don't know if in Star Wars land they've shuffled some of these ranks around, but anyway, yeah. So Major Von Reg is the First Order trooper that we saw in the very first
sports
episode.
All red
TIE fighter.
Flies the red interceptor. He's a badass.
Yeah. So he goes to the station to talk to Captain Doza about providing them some sort of protection from pirates, and thus
which
sparks
is a
callback
to Episode 3.
So yeah, when the station was invaded by the pirates, and you had the aces that had to come out and defend the station, and we also, that was the first little hint of First Order, tomfoolery.
Oh yeah,
around
I mean,
the
it's
station.
revealed that Von Reg and Phasma hired the pirates to fuck with them.
Yeah, so that's why he's following up on this. He's following up from his plot to say, like, hey, you've been attacked by these pirates. We're offering our protection to you. But, Captain Doza kind of seems wise to it a little bit.
Typical gang mob scam. Protection scam.
Exactly. Like, he's trying to get him to buy in, but, Doza is quick to come back and say, all I would have to do is drop one word to the New Republic about you being here, and you could be in a world of shit. But then, Von Reg comes back and says that, Doza might not have the cleanest nose.
Exactly. I like that. I mean, he's basically like, hey, dude, good for you feeling all righteous, but we know you deal with the underworld, and the New Republic doesn't really like that either.
Yeah, exactly. And, all this time, from the beginning of the episode, not only are we dealing with the First Order presence, we're also dealing with a fuel shortage on the Colossus. There is a 100-hour, essentially, electricity shutdown.
Which is quite odd, considering the Colossus is a fueling station.
Fuel station. Yeah, that was kind of what I thought, too. I was like, man, this is kind of weird.
How does that work?
Is this like they run on a different type of fuel than they provide, or what's happening here? So, that was a little weird, but the real interesting part was, the First Order and their presence there, and then also Kaz trying to go about being the spy that he's supposed to be for Poe, and obviously,
I mean, he goes all in.
Yeah, I mean, he what is he like? Sit outside of the room, outside of Doza's room. Essentially he breaks into the high tower, sneaks into it, and then
he almost gets killed. I mean, he goes so far in this episode to try to figure out what the First Order's up to that he almost gets blasted.
Yeah, he's like climbing outside of the Colossus walls, like hanging off of scaffolding and stuff like that. First Order literally firing at him.
At first they're shooting stun ripples, but then they're like, "Fuck it." I mean, they were trying to kill the guy. I mean, Tordoza helps him to get away. Yeah. But even after that, they figure out where he is, and they're trying to blast him. And I thought that was a funny segment where Aunt Z is taking bets on if Kaz is going to make it or not, and everyone's like, yeah.
Yeah. They're like watching, it almost looks like they're watching like a race.
Yeah, exactly. Like a Greyhound race.
Yeah.
Or like human Plinko.
Oh, gosh. It was hilarious. Like everybody's laughing and cheering and, you're gasping when he gets shot at and almost hit. Like it was great. It was a really fun sequence. But I think you're right. I think this was a return to, what we wanted in the show, which is furthering that plot line about the First Order and who this spy could be on the base. I don't think that it's Captain Doza just based off of this interaction that we've seen.
Obvious.
Yeah, like it, based off
I'm
this
still going
interaction-
Yeager. I'm going Yeager.
I think we're right, because I 100% agree with you on there. I mean, funny enough, Yeager did not really have that big of a
He
part
wasn't even.
in
I
this,
mean, he
yeah.
was mentioned, but was not seen in this episode.
Yeah, he wasn't there. So I mean, if we are to believe that he's the spy, it would kind of make sense that he's when the First Order's there, he kind of dips out. He doesn't show his face. But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of good moments in this episode.
Well, yeah, I mean outside the episode just being good, it also had some great Easter eggs. So I'm committed to every Monday, as we get new episodes, breaking down not only the Easter eggs but also doing a recap and review. So I'm gonna try to stick to that even as my technical equipment's all fucked up. Let's just say I'm probably not gonna have bumpers for the next week or so. Either way, this episode also had what I considered 6 Easter eggs, and there's some good ones, Nick. So the first one I noticed is right in the beginning when we're in Aunt Z's. If you look behind her during one of the shots, she has a very nice collection of Empire-era helmets. I mean, she has a TIE Fighter helmet, a Mandalorian helmet. It looks like a B-Wing pilot helmet. And these are the little nuances that I love in these types of shows.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you that the people who are working on this show aren't working in a vacuum. They're not only developing the show to show Resistance stuff. Like, they bring in everything, like little callbacks in this form, with the helmets to, not only other animated series but to the movies as well. So it was really cool to see. And then, I mean, I gotta say, Aunt Z does look like the type of woman that would, keep she's almost like a trophy case. Yeah,
she's pretty hardcore. I mean, she looks like the same species as Unkar Plot, but almost like she could kick the living shit out of him.
Oh yeah, like if Unkar Plot and Aunt Z got into a fight, Aunt Z would definitely
rip him no competition. So actually, the next Easter egg I noticed is still in Aunt Z's place. Big surprise, and I swear to God, I know there's more than just one of them in terms of the species. But I really believe the poster that Aunt Z has in her bar is of the one and the only Salacious Crumb.
Yeah, I mean, Salacious Crumb, we know. I mean, like, he didn't die. There was nothing to show that he died in episode 6 when they.
Well, he might have blown up on the skiff, but
that's true.
It's still just a poster of the Crumb.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool, and it's so, like, the fact that you caught this is just, like, kudos to you, because it is way, it's in a very dark spot.
That's how
in the
I'm
background.
watching these, man. I watch these. I pull them up on PlayStation View on my computer so I can screenshot and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm watching at this point frames, man.
Yeah, because like I caught most of the ones you had on here. Like one of them, the bottom 3 I caught 100% for sure. The first 2 were high level catches. I mean, like if you're following along, there's a post on Entertainment Buddha in the video where Matt breaks down all the Easter eggs here. If you're following along, those first 2 on the list that we just talked about there, those are high-level catches. Like, that's some fucking eagle eye shit right there, to be completely honest with you.
That's my force powers kicking in.
Oh, yeah. But that is really cool, though. Like, another thing, like, again, this, shouting,
right,
shouting
that's
out
like
to
people that
6.
were up in arms about this show, like, it's not an anime. I don't give a fuck what you want to call it. It's still a fucking Star Wars show. And at this point in time, my friends, it's a pretty good Star Wars show.
Yeah. I mean, we're starting to fill in gaps here.
We have all new characters, and guess what? They're all pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, Niku still annoys me. He's gonna have to grow on.
I love
Niku's gonna
Niku.
have to grow on.
I love him. I don't know why. He's literally like, he's Drax.
He is.
He's Drax. He's the Star Wars Drax.
He's just like super innocent
such an
Drax.
Idiot.
Like he is.
Because even in this one, he does the same shit. Like, just casual conversation. Like, Kaz is like, yeah, we need to go check on that. Meaning, like, we should probably plan it out. And lo and behold, what does Nico do? He just rolls down and fucking checks on it.
Yeah, like immediately.
And he actually
has no
says like, "Yeah, I'm doing this because Kaz wanted me to."
Yeah. He has no concept of like
He's literal to a fault, even worse than Drax. I mean, you can't be literal with him because he'll take you literally.
Yeah, like you can't. It's almost like you can't talk to him if you have a secret. You can't say it. If you're planning something to happen in the future, you can't.
Whatever
talk to
you
it
tell
around
him,
Niku.
he's going to do or think.
Yeah. So, and speaking of Niku, the third. Well, actually, he's a little bit later down, but
it's actually both of them. So the third one, this is actually the moment we were just talking about. So Niku takes it upon himself to go investigate the landing of a First Order vehicle, and where they up to, trying to help out Kaz because Kaz has mentioned it. And so the Easter egg here is the First Order trooper looks at him and says, "Move along."
Move along. Yeah.
Which, again, I mean, it might be a stretch. I don't think it is. We all know where that comes from. That comes from A New Hope. Obi-Wan Kenobi force fucking a stormtrooper proper in Mos Eisley.
The famous, one of the most famous lines, well, not the move along, but one of the most famous lines in Star Wars history. You don't need to see our identification.
But the trooper follows it up with, "Move along. Move along." And then the speeder goes on by. They go back into and that's where they roll into the cantina and meet Han Solo and Chewbacca, and their journey begins. But yeah, like stuff like that. That is, again, like cool little callbacks for fans like us, for fans of the original trilogy, or for any of the, any Star Wars property, really. There's stuff like this in here for everybody who's ever enjoyed Star Wars. So, and then moment number 4 is also around Niku, and it's the type of communicator that he was using. And I caught this right away. I mean, like, you look at it, and it is clearly an Imperial era or an Imperial style communicator that was being used by Han, Luke, and Chewie when they were on the Death Star in Episode 4. Yeah, I mean, you can see it the most clear in 3PO's hands. I mean, it's dead on. That little spherical structure that he was using, like, oh my god, like when he was trying to save him in the trash compactor.
They're dying, R2. They're dying.
Yeah. So I mean, again, very minuscule, but it's an Easter egg. And so number 5, that is kind of 2 in 1, but I thought it was interesting that it was revealed that not only can we've already learned this through the movies, but First Order troopers still can't aim, but they also have a stun ripple blaster setting, and by that, go back to A New Hope when they capture Leia on the Tantive 4. They set their shit to stun, and it shoots out like that ripple.
Yeah, it's almost like a blue ring.
Yeah, it's a series of blue rings, like smoke rings, vape rings for you younger kids.
But, I mean, this is another Episode 4 callback, and if we look at all the ones that we have so far, I mean, we have the Move Along Episode 4, we have the Communicator Episode 4, and then we have the Stun Ripple Blaster, which is also a Episode 4 callback. So a lot of original trilogy homages and nods in this episode here. Very good. And then the final one.
The final one was a treasure trove.
Yeah, it was essentially, anything that you could want to see.
It was Easter Egg City. I mean, if you're an Easter egg hunter and you couldn't realize everything going on in this room, you're a moron, because Tora Doza is clearly a super fan of the Empire era. I mean, she had an Ewok doll. She had a poster of Tatooine. She had a Max Rebo doll. She had a Bausch doll, a Stormtrooper doll, a fucking Djarin character doll, a fucking Phoenix Squadron poster.
Yeah, T-16 Skyhopper.
The T-16 Skyhopper model.
Yeah, like this girl had everything that, like you said, she's young. She was not around in the
she's
period
like
of time
me.
where she wasn't there when the rebellion against the Empire was happening, but her father probably was and probably told her a lot about it. and she's
Well,
clearly
she would have been
a
at the tail
fan
end.
of that
She would have
time
been born
period.
at that, like right at the climax,
Yeah.
honestly. Because again, well,
What is she like?
no. I'm
16,
confused
17?
again. I'm getting Mando fucked up with
Yeah.
Resistance.
Yeah,
Let's
'cause this
do a
one's
check
like-
on it. Google this motherfucker. When is Resistance 7+ years out of?
No, that's
Or 7 years before Force Awakens, right?
Mando is 7 years after
A New Hope.
New Hope. Yeah.
But
Let's see.
Resistance,
We're
I
checking
believe,
it
is
again.
7 years prior to Force Awakens, or 3 years maybe.
Yeah, I'm looking now. Shortly, blah blah blah. Set in the early days of the Resistance, blah. It's just it doesn't give.
No, I know it's on
years,
like the
right?
official Star Wars.
Yeah, it's okay. Here, let's see. I think I found it. Resistance is 34 ABY, so it's 34 years after Episode 4, after A New Hope.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which
So she
is-
definitely didn't grow up.
No, she's missed it by a while, but her father was probably there. Her father was
Oh,
probably
easily.
a young,
He.
a young
I mean,
man.
Doza. It was easily an Imperial leader or a rebellion leader. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, based
So
off of
that's
the garb
even
that he was
cooler. Again, I
wearing-
mean, she's literally collecting shit from a previous generation.
Yeah, I mean, she probably heard about the time from her father. Her father's probably told her stories about the rebellion against the Empire and the heroes of the galaxy, Han, Luke, Leia, and all of the adventures that they went on. I mean, even so much as to, what I find cool is that the Ewok doll goes to show that incident wasn't just isolated to that moon.
Dude,
Like,
the Ewok doll was the best.
it was so funny.
I was like,
I mean, like
the Star Wars galaxy commercialized the Battle of Endor.
I know, yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Like that was probably like wartime propaganda
That is
film.
brilliant.
Like, look
I mean,
at
they fucking they commercialized the Ewoks.
They probably took a few of them off the fucking planet, like Paplu and Wicket.
It had to be
and
rebels too. It's like the fucking
Chief
New
Trippa.
Republic was trying to capitalize on the fucking Ewok fame.
Oh yeah, they probably had like a HoloNet viewing of like a metal presentation to the Ewok village and
Wicket.
stuff like that.
Wicket's like, yep,
Oh,
yep.
Yeah, it's just it is. It was great to see shit like this, and so much of it in one place, like we were saying with Tora's apartment. But yeah, man, like this show is gonna have stuff like this in it. Like this show is built to not only have little drops like this, but also references to other properties in the Star Wars universe, whether it be, the original trilogy like we're seeing a lot now. We could even go back to the prequels in some way, shape, or form in terms of Easter eggs. And then also, like we saw with Rebels, with the poster, there's a lot of opportunity to reference all of these.
Dude,
these
I'm
old
really
properties
digging
in
this
there.
show. I mean,
Really cool.
now that we finally got a new episode, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I tuned out because I watched the first 4 literally the debut weekend because that's how they provided it.
Yeah.
But after seeing a new episode, I'm like, damn, you know what? I know at first we are kind of like, it was good, but the lack of Force people, whatever. But now I'm like, who gives a shit?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't give a fuck.
There's
It's fucking.
there's a
this
lot of
fucking
room.
Star Wars, and it's new. There is an argument to be made for brand new shit.
Yeah,
Let's get
there's a
away
lot
from
of
the
room for
Skywalker
show.
universe, my friends. It's going away.
It's gonna end.
It's going
gonna
away.
end after Episode 9. So
I mean,
have
we
to
know in
prepare
9
for it.
Leia's dead, and there you go. That's until
And we
Kylo
know-
dies. That's all the Skywalker shit.
Yeah.
So we
So-
might as well get used to new stuff in Star Wars.
New main characters, new focuses, new storylines,
and
this
maybe
is gonna be one.
no Force, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, in a show like this, I don't feel like it's necessary. The
Not
show
at
has
all.
a lot of room
at this
to
point.
grow.
I mean, there's no reason for it.
No, yeah, I mean, this is not a show like Rebels where Kanan Jarrus as one of the last surviving Jedi after Order 66 is out there and he's training this new Force user and Ezra Bridger. Like, that's a completely different thing. And this show is happening in an era where the Force had kind of gone into a, I don't want to say like a stagnant period within the galaxy, but it wasn't.
Oh, it's gone at this point.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
Luke's already in exile for years. I mean, it's gone. Jedi are gone.
Yeah,
there is no Force outside of what Kylo and Snoke are up to.
Exactly. Like, in terms of its prominence in the galaxy, it's not there anymore. I mean, with the Old Republic, you had essentially your galactic peacekeeping force was all run by Force users.
It's all. I mean, again, it's all legend at this point, and that's why Luke's act at the end of 8 is so huge, is because he validated the legends finally for this new generation of people being oppressed.
Yeah. So this show is definitely built to subsist without Force users. I mean, would I be angry if they brought one in some form or fashion?
Give me a break.
Oh,
I'd love
God.
fucking Kylo to roll in with his jaggedy ass fucking hooded costume, being all pissy.
I mean, it would be great, but it doesn't. This show doesn't need the Force to survive, because you have protagonists like Kaz and Poe and Yeager and all of Team Fireball, who don't rely on the Force for their abilities or for what they're doing, and then you also have antagonists like Captain Phasma and Major Von Reg and all of the First Order military structure that does not rely on.
But I mean,
Force,
you also just have
Force.
brand new people that are interesting in and of themselves. I mean, at this point, to me, Kaz and his interactions with Niku, Tam, BB-8,
Bucket when he trips over his ass in the beginning. Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, to me, it's like, who cares? Like I said, this show, I think, has hit its stride. Characters are established, world is established, rules, narrative, so on and so forth. It's got potential.
Yeah, I want to see. I guess like one of the main things that I said about this show in our initial podcast when we had watched all of the available episodes was that it's definitely more kid friendly than Rebels or Clone Wars. So I want to see like if there is a maturation process with this show like we got with Clone Wars and like we got with Rebels, or if it's gonna stay this same style of.
See, I don't even know if this one's kiddie anymore. It's just different. It's a different animation style.
It seems like it's more slapsticky to me. Like there's more slapstick stuff than there was in Rebels for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the slapsticky stuff came from Chopper.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was the one, the little curmudgeon or the asshole that was getting a laugh, but it wasn't so obvious because he was going.
Yeah.
Instead of actually speaking words.
Yeah, I mean this one, it seems like, even the scene towards the end where Kaz is running for his life from the First Order still kind of felt like Benny Hill-ish. Like we were saying, we have essentially the entire bar, Ozzy's bar.
If they would have played the Benny Hill music, it would have been even better.
I know, like it's almost like the Benny Hill music, or fucking like, if you remember it's just, and if you haven't seen it yet,
dude, I'm just envisioning it right now.
Yeah, like he's climbing along these walls and shit, like oh my god, that's
fantastic analysis right there, my friend. Yeah, so, first off, if you don't know what the fuck he's talking about, just type in Benny Hill. Yeah, and you'll get the music, because that's all you need, and then you'll also get the concept, because
I mean that's what it was like.
Oh my god, dude! I feel like I almost have to edit it now. I feel like I have to take the video and speed it up a bit and slap the fucking Benny Hill music on.
It would work. It would work perfectly. It would work perfectly. Shit. So yeah, but I mean, there were moments like that in Clone Wars and Rebels, but in small doses. It feels like it's more of a focus on the comedic part of the show right now. And I want to see, what I want to see is, at the end of season 1, where are we in terms of story arc and kind of tone, like episodic tone. But yeah, I mean, I think overall the show has a bright future ahead of it. I don't know what the plan is on Disney's side. Like, is this going to be like do they have a set amount of seasons that they want to do, or are they just going to let it go until they decide to stop it? But yeah, it's very interesting, and it's telling new stories, and it's telling stories in a timeline that is ripe for stories to be told. So good stuff. If you haven't seen it yet, they're all available. Go on the Disney Now app, punch in your login to your cable provider, whether it be PlayStation Vue, whether it be Spectrum, Cox Cable, anything like that.
I had to.
Dude.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, so that's the Benny Hill music for people listening who don't know what it is.
Dude, this is a YouTube video. It has 1.2 million views, and all it is a blue screen that has Benny in white, and then underneath it, Hill with like 20 exclamation points, and that's it.
Oh, yeah, that's all it needs. I mean, because some shit just works really well with that music, and that end scene with Kaz running from the First Order does. It just works.
All right,
it just works.
Sorry, that's definitely a sidetrack by me, but you really sent my brain down a rabbit hole by itself with that analogy you made. It's just like, yeah, you're exactly right.
It works. It does.
Okay, so let's move on to our meaty segment of the night of the podcast, and that's just kind of continuing on with the series we've been doing over the past 3 podcasts. Because I mean, ultimately there hasn't been a lot of official news, so we've had to cook up some topics. But on the past 2 podcasts, we talked about Fanboy wants we want in episode 9, and then Fanboy wants that we want to see in The Mandalorian. So in this episode, we're going to do our Fanboy wants for the Clone Wars animated series reboot. And the first one, Nick, I think that's just a general mantra, not so much a moment. I really want this series to literally pick up right after the end of season 5.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is where
let's just throw away the lost chapters at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they can still exist, but let's just pretend they're their own thing. Let's just continue on with what's going down after the motherfuckers banished Ahsoka but invited her back, and then she's like, fuck you.
No, I'm going on my own. Exactly. Like, that was essentially a cliffhanger.
Fuck
like,
yeah, well.
you leave that.
I mean, Anakin's going like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, and this kind of ties into a moment that is it on the list? Maybe not. But like, you have Barriss Offee, who's caught and convicted of this crime now, or like, Anakin has proven that she's done it. You have Ahsoka that is banished from the Jedi Order and, like you said, invited back after the Jedi had realized that she was wrongly accused. And we never find out what happens. I mean, directly, we never find out directly what happens next to Ahsoka after that. We don't find out anything that happens to Barriss.
Nothing. Dude, we don't even really see Anakin again after that fucking episode.
No, I mean, there's so much content to be covered there between, Ahsoka being banished and then trying to figure out what she's going to do with her life, and then being reintroduced into Rebels as Fulcrum, as Hera's contact within the underworld. Like, there's a lot of ground to cover there, and I'm not saying that it all needs to be covered in this one season, but to show how Ahsoka, assimilates into the underworld. I mean, does she stay on Coruscant? Coruscant is a very big planet, and we all also know that it has a very prominent, underground, mercenary type of culture there. So does she just go straight down to,
There's so much to explore with Ahsoka, because the way it rests now, she disappears, and then we don't see her again for decades.
Yeah, like she comes back as an adult character.
Decades. Just out of nowhere, she's working with the rebellion, and she has some badass white fucking lightsabers.
Yeah, exactly. So that I think that is a massive portion of this show has to be on Ahsoka, because she was the first, if I'm not mistaken, I could be speaking out of my ass here, but she was the first, brand new prominent character to be introduced via an animated format for Star Wars. Like, going into the Clone Wars movies, we get introduced to a lot of clones who play ancillary characters and stuff like that, and then you have your main characters in Obi-Wan and Anakin,
I
but
think
your
the
primary
only
focus is...
argument that could be made is that technically Asajj
as well,
because she is first introduced. I don't know if you remember when what's his name, Gennady Tarkovsky, the guy behind Samurai Jack, did the first two Clone Wars seasons of not even remotely what Clone Wars ended up being.
Yeah, exactly. He did it was not the animated.
They're
3D
fantastic.
Style that we
I'm
saw.
telling you right now. I know they're not
really
considered canon, I believe, at this point, but these motherfucking animated shits are awesome.
Oh yeah, I have them on DVD. They're back.
Actually,
in
I think they
Louisiana.
are
I don't have them with
canon
me,
because literally the
goes
second season leads directly into the beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
That's what I was gonna say. It goes all the way up until the point where you see Mace Windu crush General Grievous's chest, and that's kind of why he has that cough in episode 3. That's what they used to explain.
You also see how Palpatine gets
the
abducted.
kidnapping. Yeah, exactly.
So I do believe they may even be canon.
Yeah.
Either way, they're great fucking cartoon series. But the point being is, Nick's mostly right. You could argue that Asajj ended up being pretty fucking prominent in the Clone Wars proper. So the fact that she was first introduced in the Clone Wars, Tarkovsky, whatever the fuck his name is.
Yeah.
Technically, maybe she's first.
Yeah, but
I mean, come on. I mean, Ahsoka being goddamn Darth Vader's Padawan that we never knew about.
Yeah,
doesn't get much bigger than that.
Too big of a character to ignore in the new season, and also, I mean, the plot thread, the primary plot thread of that whole show was left with that. That was the major thing that happened. That was the story that everybody wanted continued before the Clone Wars was ultimately killed and then pseudo revived by Netflix. So I think you're right. Direct continuation is the way to go here. I don't want some sort of 3-year jump where
they can't do it. Again, the Clone Wars were only 3 years long. I mean, a lot of people got to remember that.
That's true. Yeah, it's a good point. So you don't have.
I mean, we're talking about stories that have to be told post Battle of Geonosis and pre-beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, pre.
That's all you got. I mean, that's
kidnapping
a
of Palpatine.
2 to 3 year window, at most.
Yeah, not a lot of time. So I would hope that that's the direction that they're going to take it. So next up on this is very interesting that you brought it up, and I think it would be really cool. And that's a younger Grand Admiral Thrawn, who wouldn't be Grand Admiral yet. He would probably just be
he'd be whatever he was in the goddamn book. I mean, what's the book out right now? I mean, there's literally a book out by Zahn Buddy.
Yeah, it's called Alliances. In the first
it's
book,
about
he had worked
Anakin,
his
Padme,
way up.
and fucking Thrawn.
Exactly. So bringing in Thrawn pre-Grand Admiral status, and during his time, working. I mean, technically, he wasn't even in the
Republic.
Republic military structure yet. He was still a Chiss.
Right. It's almost
warrior,
from what I know, and I mean, anyone please shit on me because I'll get this wrong. But it's to me, it's almost like a Saw Gerrera situation.
He was working.
It's not the Republic was trying to court the Chiss planet, but somehow Thrawn was pleading for something or wanting something or whatever.
It was, I think it was more of a circumstance type of thing where...
Yeah, they had to team up for some reason.
Exactly, yeah. They were fighting for a similar cause at the time, and Anakin and Thrawn essentially were working together. Like they had
So
established
it's
some sort
already
of working
established that
relationship.
these two can exist in this time period.
Oh yeah.
So why not
absolutely.
fucking put it on fucking screen? Especially for the fact that you ended up bringing Thrawn in out of fan service in the Rebels and legitimizing him. I mean,
Yeah, and I mean, like,
let's get real. Them putting Thrawn in Rebels is what canonized Thrawn officially.
Yeah, like brought him back into canon. And I mean, like you said, these characters have already had an established relationship through novels. Now putting that on, you know, not only making the link from, you know, from Clone Wars where he's in it, well from Clone Wars to Rebels, like, you know, where he is in it as a pre-Imperial officer, still a member of the Chiss Collective, and then in Rebels he is proper Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Right. I mean, who doesn't want to see his fucking rise to Grand Admiral in the Empire?
Oh yeah, I think that would be a fantastic
And that's what
addition.
this shit could tell. So I'm all about that. So next one, and obvious, I mean, I've seen a goddamn scene that fleshes some of this out, but I want some more Boba Fett narratives. Because I'm telling you right now, when I went to the last Star Wars Celebration, Filoni showed off a cut scene that showed how Boba gets a dent in his fucking helmet, and it comes from a duel between him and Cad Bane. They have like a disagreement, and Boba blasts Cad Bane, who is a very impressive bounty hunter.
Yeah, I mean,
Motherfucker
Cad
killed
Bane
Jedi.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, if you have watched the Clone Wars series, and you know that Cad Bane has been around since like season 1 and had persisted through the entire series without falling prey to the Jedi or anybody else. Like, he was a badass. Like, so, and then you seeing that, like you said, that was kind of like Filoni's way of saying, like, well, this is what you guys are missing.
Yeah, I mean,
now
he's
that
like,
Clone
this
Wars
shit
is
existed
gone.
before Disney squashed it.
Yeah, so that's going to be really interesting. Do you think Filoni would just say like, "Hey, this is already written"?
That's where it came from. I'm like, I can only hope that he plans to repurpose this episode, even if it's one episode. I'll take it, because I mean, even in the Clone Wars episodes we got with Boba, we never saw him in the Fett armor proper.
Yeah.
In this clip, the motherfucker was wearing. He still looks like a little kid, and it was kind of weird, but he was wearing the Fett proper, and it shows how he gets that iconic dent in his goddamn dome.
Yeah.
And it's because Cad Bane missed and hit him in the fucking helmet, and he hit Bane and kills him.
Yeah.
To me, that's a huge fucking moment in Star Wars lore because of the bounty hunter implications.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bounty hunter.
It was just revealed, right, Nick, that the Boba Fett movie was going to focus on the bounty hunters that were teased in Empire Strikes Back. So what is that going to show you?
Yeah,
that they were committed to focusing on the stars of the bounty hunter world, and that was those people. And Cad Bane would have been one of them, but fucking Boba waxed him.
Killed him right off. But, I mean, not only that, but I mean, Boba Fett is such, now him being out of, largely out of canon, except for the cartoon series, bringing in more information about him and his rise to prominence within the galaxy and becoming one of the most famous bounty hunters of all time. I mean, like, this is, building out this character more needs to be done, just because this was a character that essentially came out of nowhere. Like, when he was probably inserted into episode 5 as a cool looking character, made his way into episode 6 as well. But like, you could see in episode 6 that they were essentially trying to write him off. Like, he played nothing but a cursory role. Like,
oh dude, he's a pure fan favorite. I mean, he was never written to be a main player. I think probably one of the only reasons he even showed up in Jedi is because he was attached to the whole Han thread.
Exactly. Like, if he wasn't the one to wheel Han out in carbonite and take him to Jabba, then there would be no Boba. But like, the way that the treatment that he got in episode 6 from Lucas was, he like,
gets
Lucas
buffooned.
Saying, like, yeah, exactly. He gets clowned. His fucking jetpack throws him right into the sail barge, and then boom, into the Sarlacc
supposedly the most fearsome bounty hunter in the galaxy gets buffooned
by a blind guy who just happens
by
to be holding a
mistake.
staff.
hits his rocket pack, which by mistake sends him into the side of fucking Jabba's sail barge, and then he clunks off of it and rolls into the Sarlacc. I mean, there couldn't have been a more cheap death for a character of that legend.
Yeah, I mean, people go in, if you've never seen the original trilogy before.
He was a nobody. I mean, he became fan favorite because he looked fucking awesome.
Exactly. He purely off of his looks. But, like, can you imagine, though, if you're a fan of Star Wars, or, like, you've heard of Star Wars, you know who Boba Fett is. Everybody knows who Boba Fett is. I got a Boba Fett mug in my fucking... in my cabinet right now. You've never seen Star Wars, you watch episode 6 and you see that's how Boba Fett dies. You'd be like, what the fuck happened here?
I mean, dude, he might be on screen 2 minutes longer than the Hoth Wampa.
Yeah, like, he may have 5 minutes total screen time. If that, like, it's so little. Like, they actually added more screen time for him in the special editions, and it was just like a cursory, like, camera
because
pan.
they're like, yo, we at this point in the 90s, we understand the fandom behind Fett, so we'll just let him flirt with the random assholes we added to fucking Max Rebo Band.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, learning more about him and his rise and, you know, his time back in that era when he was still developing, he was still a kid. I agree 100%.
All right, so I think the next two we can kind of lump together, but
exactly,
I want more Anakin. I want to see him doing more pimp Jedi heroics, but I also want to see him embrace the dark side a bit more. Because honestly, I just went through Clone Wars again. I'm almost done with the last chapters, even though they don't really count. But again, I watched seasons 1 through 5, which are proper. Early on, he's really portrayed as like, yeah, this guy has skills that no one else can even fucking touch. And that kind of tapers off in the later seasons. So I'd like to see more of that shit where you you can believe in Obi-Wan's bullshit he feeds Luke in the hut. Basically like, yo, your dad was one of the best fucking pilots in the fucking galaxy. And they kind of backed that up a bit in the early Clone Wars, but then they went away. So I want to see more of that type of stuff. But more importantly, I want to see more of the moments where he vets his frustration with the Jedi Council, or even more Tusken Raider, Larstead, Homestead type of moments.
Even towards the end of season 5, when the whole investigation around Ahsoka was going on,
he was getting pissed at that.
Yeah, like he was moving away. Like he was doing things that the Jedi told him not to do. He was beyond the bounds.
He was still playing the role. I mean, he was still trying to hold her accountable. But he also wasn't willing to just consider her guilty. He wanted to capture her for sure. But he wasn't willing to just chalk her up as like, yeah, you're fucking guilty until proven innocent, where the other masters kind of fed into that. Yeah.
And at the end, when, you know, Ahsoka refuses to come back, I feel like that could be a turning moment.
It got him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a moment that allows him to embrace even more of his darker thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, it sows more distrust within the, you know, of the Jedi within him, because he sees that
he probably even feels like a failure himself.
Yeah, like he's not only has the Jedi Order let Ahsoka down, but he let Ahsoka down. Like he did not properly stand by her side like he should have. And that's what ultimately leads to her forging her own path and leaving the Jedi Order. And this is somebody that's not only, you know, a Padawan to Anakin, but has become a very close friend to him, even though, I mean, the same could be said of the relationship between him and Obi-Wan. Like, not only do you grow as master and apprentice,
they become de facto family members.
Exactly.
I mean, in the end, the Jedi, the way it's arranged, you have no family except your Jedi, except your master, really.
Yeah.
Like, the only one you'll get close to is your master, and even then, you're not really even allowed to form any sort of emotional bond.
Yeah, I mean, at the very most, I mean, the emotional bond that you know, Obi-Wan felt for Qui-Gon was probably even
too much, and the same he felt for Anakin was probably too much.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could
exactly.
make an argument that even Obi-Wan won against the true Jedi edicts.
Yeah, but the perfect way to pick up this series to me is like having Anakin go on a tirade, either to Obi-Wan in private or within the council chambers about how they handled this Ahsoka investigation. Just like in there, angry, and just letting them have it, saying like this is your fault. We've lost one of the best Jedi prospects because of your ignorance, and you didn't want to listen to me.
Exactly.
Like him saying that, like, I was right the whole time, and you didn't want to listen to me.
Because I mean, that's the key. Because in the end, that's how Palpatine gets him. Like he finally convinces him, like, "Yo, dude, they're always just been trying to hold you back. They never trust you, even though you're the strongest. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah,
I can give you that power. You want it. You want it." And in the end, that's all he ever did want. He wanted the recognition, and they wouldn't give it to him, so that drove him to wanting the power.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good ways that this could be done, and I think you're right. Primarily, for like overall tone and theme of that character needs to shift way darker by the end of that season.
Because we don't get it in the movies. We don't get it in the fucking movie. We got to rely on the cartoons to justify his betrayal.
Yeah,
we
to
have
fill
to
those gaps in. Next up on the
and
list
this is
more
all.
Tarkin
I mean, again, I don't
moments.
know how fresh you are in the series, but in season 5, Tarkin plays a prominent role, and he is an asshole, but a great asshole. You can already see how like he doesn't fucking like the Jedi. You can see how much he's buying into just the Palpatine vision.
Oh yeah,
And military rule. I mean, he is just a dick.
Yeah, he was actively undermining the Jedi investigation.
I mean, he's the one that basically was like, "Yo, Ahsoka did it. Fuck her. We don't need an investigation. Done. See ya. Fuck you guys."
Yeah, and not only that, but at some point in the series or in that season, like him and like Tarkin and Anakin develop a pretty good working relationship at one point.
You're right. It's before this fallout. I mean,
yeah.
Tarkin has an earlier, I think, a multiple episode arc in season 5 where he's established, and I actually think Anakin and the Jedi kind of help him, but in the same light, he still is like he never trusts the Jedi.
No, not at all. And I mean, I think that is key as well. Like maybe showing him buddying up to Palpatine, like you had mentioned, like, building that relationship because, you don't land in the seat of Grand Moff.
Bro, you can tell he's an ass kisser in this season.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
he's definitely someone that's making moves to ensure that he gets as much power as possible when the shit goes down.
Yeah, exactly. So more Tarkin would definitely be a welcomed addition. And I mean, even, kind of linking that to Thrawn and the Thrawn novels, and I know we're already talking about, post-Imperial rise here, but Tarkin is always talked about in the books as well. So it would be really good to bring him in.
Well, I mean, you got to remember, this is a guy that ultimately, the first time you watch A New Hope, you almost thought he was Vader's fucking boss. Yeah, I mean, he wielded that much influence. I mean, he talked to Vader like Vader was a little fucking pet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just the way that Leia references him to Vader, it's like, oh, yeah, still on the end of Tarkin's leash, I see. Like, come on. I mean, that guy was a badass. And the way that
he really was. He was probably the most respected non-Force user that Palpatine respected.
Oh, yeah. And just the way that they brought him back in Rogue One as well, and the way that he
such
just
an asshole.
I mean,
he was just
Krennic,
a classic asshole.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, completely takes credit for Krennic's accomplishments with the Death Star.
Narcissistic, power-hungry asshole.
Yeah, I mean, perfect. I mean, it was a fantastically written and executed character by Lucas in Episode 4. I mean, really a great job establishing him, but then also by the teams, by the animation teams and the writers and Filoni to kind of not let that character die on the Death Star in Episode 4.
They set him up perfectly. in terms of establishing who he was early on and why he was who he was when we saw him in A New Hope. I mean, I loved it.
100%.
So speaking of more moments, I mean, this one I think is a layup. I wouldn't even call this fanboy, but I mean, let's see Maul rise to his Crimson Dawn leadership.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ground to be covered between when we see Sidious kill Savage and essentially throw Maul to the side and just get out of here.
Demeans and bitch slaps Maul into the fetal position and basically says, I'm not even going to kill you. You're such a piece of shit.
Yeah. And, that's the last time we see Maul before his re-emergence as the leader of the Crimson Dawn in Solo, which we saw at the very end of that movie.
Well, because leading up to that moment, I mean, he had already taken over what syndicate? I mean, he was already like
Death Watch,
the head of some sort of criminal syndicate. He had already taken over fucking Mandalore. And that's ultimately why Sidious came to fucking put him down, because he realized, like, uh-oh.
This guy's making moves.
This little pet I used to have that I thought was gone is starting to get a little power. It's time to fucking stamp this out.
Yeah, I mean, he essentially led the overthrow of an entire government.
Planet. I mean,
an entire militaristic government. And
he got all the Mandalorians that were banished to the moon, tricked them to help him retake over fucking Satine's Mandalore, and there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so he was making moves, and he was, with his brother in tow, and not only his brother.
He kills Pre Vizsla, who was the leader of Death Watch, who was the faction banished to the moon, and the one that helped him retake Mandalore.
Yeah, and then takes over. He takes over Death Watch with Savage.
With what weapon? The motherfucking Darksaber.
Yeah. That saber is dope as fuck, I gotta say. It's so good. But, there's a lot of ground to cover with this character. Just to show his essentially that he does not just kowtow away into the corners of the galaxy and then try to kill Obi-Wan like we see in Rebels.
It would provide
prominence again
a better connection to Solo, because if you think about it, post Solo something again happens to Maul where he goes off the rails, because by the time Rebels comes around, he's hunting down Ezra and tricking him to get this Sith holocron, and then he's still obsessed with killing Obi, and then he goes he finds Obi and goes and tries to kill him, and he gets killed. So in between the end of Clone Wars, Solo, and then Rebels, the guy goes from being the leader of the biggest criminal syndicate in the galaxy to being all fucked up again and only wanting to get revenge. So what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, and this is some stuff that is probably lost to the annals with no more Solo continuations.
Exactly. We're probably not going to see his fall from grace, but I still want to see his rise to infamy.
Yeah, exactly. Like how he goes from essentially a lost dreg to, leader of the Crimson Dawn. And I mean, he still has the remnants of the Night Sisters left in his corner, I believe. But I think that Mother Talzin is dead, right? She was killed. I can't remember 100%.
Daka maybe. Talzin may be around still.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Daka's dead. Okay. Yeah. So there's still a lot of places that he can go. He could definitely go back to Dathomir, and not only does he have the Night Sisters, but he has I can't remember what the male equivalent was to that on Dathomir. It's something brothers.
Zabrix is what his species is called.
Yeah, they're all Zabraks, but they're all like trained by the Night Sisters, like this faction of Zabraks that are on Dathomir. So he's got a lot of places to go, and he's got a lot of ground to cover before we see him in Solo, ordering Kira as the leader of the Crimson Dawn. So yeah, 100% agree with
All right, so the next one's kind of disturbing the more I read it. And I'll admit I'm the one that put it on the list, but I want to see, or at least like the hinting of the Padme Anakin twin sexy time.
Conception moment.
Right.
I mean, that's what we've like.
It's all fair game.
Clone,
it's all fair game.
Yeah. I mean, in Clone Wars, they're married already. Like, they get married at the end of episode 2.
Like I said, Clone Wars takes place post episode 2, prior Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and I mean, we know that they're having this, secret relationship that they're hiding from everybody else.
Well, at the beginning of Sith, she says, "Hey, motherfucker, I'm pregnant."
I'm pregnant. Yeah, like that's that's her first fucking line in the movie is like, "I have something wonderful to tell you," and then like, all of it. So
without being like a total creep, I'm not saying I like want to see cartoon sex. I want to see the moment where you can tell that these two get kind of friendly.
Yeah.
Because honestly, in the series up until this point, yes, you can tell they're a couple, and there's actually a great little arc in the Lost chapters where you can see Anakin's fury when she goes against his wishes, or when like another dude's hitting on her, which I think is fantastic. Again, that's the shit I want to see. I want to see this guy being angry, and petty, because that's who he ultimately becomes. But you never really get to see them in a loving setting,
romantic,
right?
I mean, I'm not talking about fucking sitting across from the table floating pears to her like what happened in fucking Attack
fuck you, or riding on like those big ass fucking bloated anteater fucks.
Yeah, on Naboo.
Oh, fuck.
So let's not go back that way.
I'm not doing it. So I'm just going right in the next one. Hey, let's get a check-in on Saw Gerrera, right?
Yeah, I mean, Saw is a character that, because
I believe they hit him up early on in season 5, is when they're first established, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and it was very minimal. Like he had like I think it was a 3-episode
arc or something like that, and his sister ultimately dies, but it's. You can catch on that he was trained by the Republic to be a guerrilla fighter, which ultimately leads to him having the skills that he has to be a rebel cell.
Yeah, exactly. Not only a rebel cell, but like a splinter cell.
Like a psycho. I mean, he's essentially the ISIS of the rebellion.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, like he is torturing people with this mind-reading Borgullet. I mean, like, how does he get from... The way that he said that was kind of...
It's horrible. I mean, that's like the worst part of Rogue One.
It's so funny.
I love you, Forrest, but that was fucking way over the top.
Borgullet will find what you have. Like he says in such a weird way. But just seeing this character's like evolution, seeing what happens to him after the death of his sister.
Because at this point, I imagine he's starting to get much more radical at this point, and I almost want to see a little bit of his fro.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be that much older. I mean, let's be real.
Do you think that he's going to, like, would you like to see missing body parts already? Like, does he have, like, a robotic arm?
That's spot on. Even more so than the hair. I'd like to see him potentially starting to show some of the damage he's taken due to his tactics.
Yeah. So,
because honestly, by the time we get to him in Rogue One, he's essentially Darth Vader without a fucking helmet.
Yeah, like he's
in a walking iron lung.
Yeah, I mean he's got the fucking breath mask. Like he's essentially just a torso and a head.
He's missing at least a full leg.
Yeah.
He's missing. Is he missing an arm too?
Yeah, he's missing an arm. From what I can remember.
He is like the beginnings of a Darth Vader.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it was clearly a mirroring.
Darth Vader is essentially Saw Gerrera fucking General Grievous.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that's pretty close.
I mean, that's ultimately what he is in terms of the mix of machine and man.
Yeah, I mean, much more machine than man.
Yeah, he's more man than Grievous was man, because Grievous was literally like a fucking brain, eyes, and a fucking gut bag.
Yeah, like you could see. Yeah, you saw his heart.
Right, it was literally like an
robotic
organ bag in his brain and eyes.
Yeah,
where Vader was at least his torso.
And he had
one
arms.
No arms.
No arms, but he had from the elbow up. So he had elbow to shoulder arms, but he had nothing.
But he still had
down.
his one robotic arm at least made the fucking fire fuck.
Yeah, it was still usable.
Right.
It was still usable because he was pulling himself up the side of the volcano.
I mean, he's a torso with a fake arm and a half arm and 2 half legs. but he's completely fucking burnt to shit.
And he cannot survive outside of his suit.
Pretty much if he's outside his suit, he's instantly dead because essentially his lungs are hanging out of his ribs and he doesn't really have any skin to cover it. I mean, that's how fucked up he is.
Yeah, I mean, we got literally a 2-second look at him when that bacta tank was draining at Rogue One. And
he's nothing.
It looked rough.
He's hardly even organic matter.
Yeah. I mean,
he's
it's
so
hard to even
pathetic,
call
and
him
I
a
wish
human.
they would have extended that scene because that's why we need a standalone Vader to see to see this man.
I want to see how he goes from the bacta tank to the suit. Like
The
somebody
suit,
has to help him.
That could be a movie in itself. I would watch that. I would watch an hour of him just getting fucking changed.
Yeah,
Like I'd watch Darth Vader's bedtime routine. I'd watch him strip down, eat some fucking dinner, jump in the fucking tank, chill, get out, put his fucking robe on, and go to bed.
Yeah, just to see how he does it. Just because
I want to
see
see this
fucked
guy's
up.
misery.
Like, yeah, like it's fucked up, and every move he makes, even within that suit, is just pure pain.
The suit is an assist. In the end, the only thing that's really keeping him alive is his fucking dark side.
Yeah,
and that's ultimately, I think that's what people kind of overlook in the Jedi, why he ultimately dies. Yeah, Palpatine kind of fried his suit, but it's also because he relinquished his fucking ties to the dark side.
Yeah, exactly.
And really his hate and the intensity of his hate is what allowed the dark side of the Force to almost keep his body moving. And it's very similar to the character of Darth Sion, who basically existed in a state of constant death.
Yeah, exactly. Like his body was literally
constantly dying,
degraded.
But he used his hate to keep it alive.
Yeah, you could see through his physical form. Like you could see through. Like it almost looked like his physical form almost looks
breaking.
Like a shattered
it was like,
mass.
You could almost. It was almost like shit. Dryden Voss's scars.
Yeah.
But you're seeing like literally into their body.
Yeah, it was. He's a nasty fucking character. Play Knights of the Old Republic 2, and then also play Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes.
He definitely
he's in that as well.
had a really bad case of acne when he was young. All right, so next one, and I'm gonna phrase it just like I gotta phrase it: Kanan fucking Jarrus. But honestly, at this point in time, guess who he is? He's Caleb Doom still.
Yeah, he was Caleb Doom.
I want to see little ass fucking Padawan Caleb Doom.
I mean, I feel like if you're going to bring it back,
why the fuck not?
He's a character that you almost have to bring into it.
That again, to me, this is a fucking slam dunk.
Yeah, at least
this is a gift at this point to the writers of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I mean, Filoni is essentially allowing himself to reintroduce you to these characters
young. I mean, we could literally
Rise.
Get essentially what George tried to do for Anakin. We could get for Kanan. We could get a kid Kanan or a kid Caleb, and ultimately, see what happens and how he goes off on his own and calls himself Kanan and kind of hides his Jedi ways. I mean, to me, in this entire list, that's my biggest one.
It would be cool if, like, with Ahsoka gone and Anakin without a Padawan, if they tried to, force him to take another Padawan, and it was Caleb.
Well, he has a master. That's established in the comics. I mean,
yeah, I know, but I thought it was cool. It would be cool though if they're like, you have to take somebody, and like he doesn't take him. Like he comes in and they're like, this is who you're taking, and Anakin's like, I'm not taking fucking anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it's that, or even if like Anakin has to go on a mission with Caleb and his master, and I forget his master, I believe is a known one too.
Let's see.
If you want to look that up, Caleb Doom's master, I believe it's it was one of the females.
Deepa Bilba.
Deepa Bulba, right?
Yeah, yep, that's
or
her.
Is it Dilpa Bulba?
Deepa Bilaba.
Yeah.
Depa Bilaba.
But she was established in Phantom Menace, correct?
Yeah.
She's in the council shot.
Yeah, she's one of the ones. She's a
master.
Yeah, she's a master. You would recognize her if you saw the picture. She's like a Middle Eastern.
Yeah, she
woman.
looks Indian.
She has
Indian, Middle Eastern, Persian, whatever.
Yeah, but yeah, she's noticeable. If you've seen, you would see her. But it would be cool if they brought her back and Caleb, aka Kanan, back into Clone Wars to go on some sort of mission. It would be a really nice little play onto that.
I love it. The next two, honestly, we already talked about. I mean,
yeah, what happened to Barriss and what's up with Asajj?
right, and it kind of goes hand in hand because that's literally where their threads ended. I mean, Asajj got mixed up in this big plot that Barriss planned, where she initially attacked the temple and then framed Ahsoka, and then honestly kind of set up even Asajj, believe it or not. So, what's going on with these people? We never really found out. I mean, no, Barriss was arrested, but was she executed? What happened?
Oh, actually, this is canon now. There's a book called Dark Disciple that kind of follows her to her end. Essentially, she starts a relationship with Quinlan Vos, the Jedi, and they're having this torrid kind of odd love affair, and it ultimately ends in Asajj dying. I didn't read it. Funny enough, I didn't read it. My girlfriend, who has not seen a Star Wars movie ever, read that book and said she really enjoyed it.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, I'm serious.
All right, well, now she has zero argument to ever not watch Star Wars and love it, because if you're gonna read a fucking random book, you might as well appreciate the fucking source material.
Yeah, she read the book, and I told her, I looked at it, and I knew what the book was about. I was like, this is about this character, Asajj Ventress. She's from the cartoon series. She's a really badass,
I love her, and my love has grown because of how badass she is in Galaxy of Heroes.
Yeah.
She really is a good character, though.
Yeah, if you want to run
she was played by
good...
Dooku. I mean...
Yeah, she was essentially played, she was played out by Dooku, tries to go back and kill him.
Well, no, Dooku wanted to use her to kill, him and her essentially as Sith do. He wanted to become master, her the apprentice, and wipe out Sidious. But Sidious figures it out and is like, Dooku, don't be a fucking dumbass. I'm fucking Sidious. Eat a dick. Get rid of the bitch.
Yeah. So
all right. So last one, again, I kind of set this up in our notes this is as fanboy as it gets. I want a motherfucking Grievous flashback before he was a droid. Because we've all been told that he came from this race of hardcore warriors, and he was
Kalish.
He was this insane genius general, fucking war mind person. Just give me some of that. I want to see this guy before he's that dipshit that's coughing behind a fucking mask.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. Obviously, it would have to, like you said, it would have to come in a flashback form, because even within the entire bounds of the Clone Wars, he's not a full Kalishi anymore. That's kind of weird to say, considering Game of Thrones exists, but. Yeah, dude, seeing him as a child, or even as a younger man, kind of, leading troops, or how he got
I just want to see
wrapped up in the CIS.
I want to see why he was pegged to be literally have his guts scraped up and saved and repurposed to become essentially a Sith warrior.
Yeah, Dooku
literally trained him in lightsaber combat.
Yeah, he said
because
it in the movie.
he obviously saw the potential.
Yeah,
in this guy's skills. So you have to figure that at some point in time, Dooku knew the original Grievous.
Yeah,
he didn't just oh hey, does anyone have some random guts and body parts of a really great fucking crazy war leader?
Yeah, because I need to put him in this robot.
Yeah, we're gonna try this shit out just in case the next potential Sith warrior gets fucked up and we need to make a machine.
Yeah. So it's I think out of everything that we've said here, this is probably the least likely to happen. Right next.
It's just I'm telling you, as during the prequels, that was one thing I always was like, man, I wish they would really properly expand this dude's story.
Well, even
because as
properly.
goofy as Grievous was kind of portrayed sometimes, I did like him as a new character, as a bad guy.
I mean, how fucking well? I mean, just like his introduction as a character within the movies, as like this four-armed robot Jedi Slayer.
Well, I mean, even in Gennedy's cartoon series, he was introduced, and he literally murdered Jedi left and right.
Yeah,
he was this is a badass dude.
Well, hell, in a deleted scene for episode 3, he kills Luminara unduly. Like, was it Luminara? No, it was Shaak Ti. He kills Shaak Ti with a lightsaber right through the back. Like, I mean, he's a badass character that never really, I think you're right, like never really got the proper introduction and or justice done to him.
Well, big surprise. In the live action movies let a character down. Yeah. Big fucking surprise.
Yeah.
The cartoons made him better. Big surprise.
It's he would do well from like a flashback showing his proper origins. So
he's a badass, and I mean he's on record as Lucas essentially saying, like, I basically created this guy to set the template for what could be done with cybernetics in a damaged human.
Yeah,
I mean this was essentially the model for the Vader model.
Yeah, I mean, like, essentially fucking Sidious looked at almost dead Anakin, and said, well, I know fucking Dooku already did it with this guy, so scrape up the pieces and just start bolting shit on. We got him.
Right.
He'll be fine.
We know we can keep this type of motivated warrior alive with some cybernetics.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff to cover. And, I mean, I know we're only talking one season here. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we get a 22-episode season. I'm
still disappointed that they capped it at that. I'm like, what do you mean one? If you're starting your own fucking streaming network, you might as well milk the goddamn licenses, people.
Yeah, and look, this would be, you're going to have your live action on the streaming service with Mandalorian. This would be your anime.
I mean, even though the Clone Wars was a total of maybe 3 years in the Star Wars universe, in TV time, you could still tell stories for years on end.
Oh yeah, you can stretch that out however long you
want.
Like, you can have 5-episode arcs.
Look at the fucking Simpsons. I mean, Bart's still probably in fucking 5th grade, and the show's been on for what, 30 plus years?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, come on.
The concept of time does not.
They've celebrated Halloween 30 times, and they're still the same age.
Yeah, unless they live on some kind of weird alternate universe where time does not progress, or like you don't age anymore.
It's called Springfield. It's a cartoon. I mean, it's the same thing with Star Wars. It ain't real.
Yeah, you don't have to adhere to the laws of time in cartoon series because your characters only age if you choose them to age. So, but yeah, man, I mean that brings us to the end of the list that we have here, and I mean, I feel like a lot of what's here, what we talked about, is definitely viable because it's basically we're just asking them to continue the story that they were telling,
to do what they were supposed to do before Disney came in and swung their big dick around and said, nah, we don't want this version. We're gonna wait, 6 years and then 7 years and then do our version.
Yeah, and I mean, granted, Rebels is a fantastic series, and I'm glad that it's made, but I'm happy now that Filoni has the opportunity to end it on his own
to try
terms.
To wrap it up. And I wish they weren't working towards, let's just wrap it up. Why not just let's another few seasons? Why not?
Yeah,
let's try to keep band-aiding the live-action prequels to try to justify that entire era from even being told.
Yeah. So, I know you guys out there listening, if there's anything that you want to see that we haven't hit on in these points that we went over, drop a comment on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Let us know what you want to see. in the Clone Wars, because it's going to be coming back. And, you know, also let us know what you think about Resistance. We went over some Resistance stuff earlier in the podcast. How you like the show? Do you think it's good? Are you intrigued by the characters and the storyline? Reach out and tell us your feelings, because that's what we care about here on Star Wars Time is your feelings.
We're Star Wars Justice Warriors. Right?
SWJW.
Yeah, we are Star Wars Justice Warriors. Because that's all that matters. It's all about that galaxy that's so far, far away. Right, my friends? All right, well, it's been real. We've gone long again. Doesn't matter. That's just what we do because we love this little franchise that we get together and talk about on Friday evenings. We appreciate you tuning in and joining in on our discussion in a passive sense. You know, one of these days, if we actually know people are listening, maybe we'll try to figure out how to take calls, because that would be fucking radical.
Yeah, you know, submit some questions for us to
answer. Whatever. I mean, if anyone is honestly listening to this, just let us know. Because otherwise, one of these days, I'm just going to be like, why are we even doing this anymore? Outside of just so we can be two friends talking about Star Wars. Because sometimes I feel like that's all it is. But really, I still enjoy myself, so I don't really care. That's how much I love Star Wars. And hopefully, if you're listening, you love it just as much. So until the next episode, my friends, may that force be with you always.